dying embers of human existence as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth. The world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the Earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. I am Nathan Schur, and accompanying me are the extraordinary movie mavens Brianna Budworth and Sam Cole. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Pleasure to be here, sir. Pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you. To begin the episode, I would like to ask my co-hosts a question.
Oh, boy.
And this is sort of a personality test.
Oh, good.
Picture a situation where each of you leave for work one day, and while at work, your home is burglarized by the two men from this film, Cobb, and I guess his name was Bill in this, and they find a box of your belongings. They open it, and they decide that your house is not worth burglarizing because of what item in particular they found in your box.
Oh, what's in the box?
I had so many what's in the box jokes.
Probably my taste in music based on Cobb's assessment of the young man's house.
I think they would find a
like,
Kenny
she's pretty
G
sad
album and be like, F this dude.
Yeah.
But that's a joke answer. I was actually trying. I don't think I wish I had something controversial to say, but my box would just be like loose change and like 3, paper dollar bills from like Barbados.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
So
I have foreign change too that my brother used to bring me back when I was in the military. And I can see Cobb being like, she only thinks she wants to travel. She doesn't actually go anywhere. Like a jerk.
I debated so long on this question, and I feel like this was just like a poor representation of what I try to do every week.
I never thought I'd ask this question, but what's in your box?
Like they would want,
Mm.
like they'd be like, oh, cool. Like, I'll smoke that,
Well, if you hadn't already guessed, we watched following from Christopher Nolan, his first feature film that came out, 1998 originally, I think, was the original premiere at the San Francisco International Film Festival, which is one of the release dates, but I guess wide in the UK in 1999 is the wide release for it. So I'm kind of going back and forth which is the actual year of the release, but I guess 1999 is the wide release for it. So following from 1999, Christopher Nolan, this is the beginning of our Nolan Nostalgia Month for the month of April. And I guess we're kind of striking while the iron is hot because, as we all know, Nolan and his film Oppenheimer was the big winner at last month's Oscars. So why not?
In a huge upset that nobody saw coming.
I know.
It was
like the very slow.
The slow burn.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All
right.
Box office too. No one went to see it. I was like, come on.
Really?
Oppenheimer was the perfect Oscar movie that they were waiting for, because if you think about like all the movies that usually get nominated that win, it's like it's all these like little indie movies that most of the general public don't watch. This is why the ratings have been so terrible. Not that I care really, but Oppenheimer was catnip for the Oscars. Like, yes, we have a movie that made like, I don't know, $600-700 million that everybody loves. And it was exactly what the Academy needed to celebrate. So
it was fun to have a robust like blockbuster. It kind of made it like festive because I tell you because usually they'll nominate The Lonely Road by such and such from somewhere, and you're like, yeah, it's like,
yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
So
nothing against those films though.
Yeah. So I have a plot synopsis, brief one here. A young writer living in London follows people in the hope of using their lives in his novels, but the hobby becomes an obsession as he soon finds himself going further than intended. Dun dun dun.
Da-na-na.
Yes.
Oh,
And I will play the trailer.
Is that a trailer?
It has a trailer. Yeah.
70-minute movie. All right.
Hang on tight.
Your eyes drift across a crowd of people, and they slowly stop and fix on one person, and all of a sudden that person isn't part of the crowd anymore. They become an individual, just like that. Just became irresistible.
So you followed women?
I followed anybody. I just wanted to see where they went, what they did. It was supposed to just be completely random. You would never follow the same person twice. That was the most important rule. That was the one that I broke first. That's when the trouble started.
I got burgled yesterday.
What's it feel like being broken into?
You're developing a taste for it. The violating, the voyeurism, it's definitely you.
I think that was enough of that. So there you have it. There's a trailer. And Sam, do you have any movie facts for us?
indeed I do. So the name of the movie is Following. This is a 1998 independent neo-noir crime thriller film, written, produced, directed, and shot and edited by Christopher Nolan. So this
Busy guy.
He was just making this movie from every angle. This is his feature film directorial debut. So it was directed by him, written by him, produced by Christopher Nolan, Jeremy Theobald, who acted in the movie. And I think one of the producers was Emma Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the Emma Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I thought so. Music
Her
by
first film too.
No way. Cool. So music by David Julian. The production company is called Momentum Pictures. This actually came out in April 24th, 1998 in San Francisco. It went on like a film festival circuit.
Or circus.
Yeah.
Little Freudian slip.
And this movie was designed to be as inexpensive as possible. And scenes were heavily, heavily rehearsed. Only one or two takes were used to economize the 16 millimeter film stock. I wish I will go back and find this guy's name or whoever it was, but I want to give shouts to the art director in this movie because this movie is micro budget, but to me that was part of the charm of it, and I did not have this feeling that they were just like hanging out in each other's apartments. It felt like the places they chose were conducive to the plot of the movie. This movie cost around $6,000. I'm not sure what that was in pounds back then. And it actually had an intake at the box office of about $126,000. So this was actually,
extremely profitable if you really do the math.
Profitable. Yeah. And so,
by the way, it's $6,000 in today's, and that's American dollars. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
In today's money, that's like $11,000. So it's like nothing.
That just blows my mind. And I don't know the name of who did the sound, but I must say for this incredibly low budget production, the mix was really good. And so someone named Jeremy Theobald played the young man. I think someone named Alex Hall was Cobb, and Lucy Russell played the blonde. And that's basically the gist of the data that I have.
And John Nolan is the policeman who is Christopher Nolan's uncle.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. I thought it was his father for some reason, but that I thought he did a good job as the policeman. I was like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
you
Some
know,
of the more gripping scenes, I thought.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so just like an unbelievable example of like storytelling on a micro budget, and
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan's, you can sort of see his like burgeoning directing style, his love of playing with time, skipping forward and backward,
Oh yeah.
and nothing is what it seems. From a production point of view, unbelievably impressive at that budget.
Yeah.
Which I've was just found like inspiring. I thought that I was going to be this like tedious, cheap, and it actually, for me, I'll go into it later, but I thought that the low micro budget nature made it more charming for me. For some reason, if this movie was slickly produced and had a larger budget, I feel like it would be more just standard, but that's just me. So yeah, that's just a little tidbit on The Following, 1998, Christopher Nolan's feature directorial debut.
All right, thank you. You know, I was when I was watching this, I was also thinking a little bit of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and that was done. I was just looking at online for 1.4 million. And I mean, I don't know why I'm bringing this up now, but I'm thinking like Guy Ritchie and Christopher Nolan's. You know, they had their debut around, I guess, the same year, pretty much. But it's just really amazing how he stretched $6,000 back in 1998. And I don't know. I'm just blown away by what he was able to do. And you know, I don't know how I'd make a movie for a feature for 6,000. I mean, I did a 72-minute feature, and it was 5 times that. And I don't know how I could have done it for any less than that. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, let's get to our reviews of this, because I'm really curious to know where we all stand on this film. First of all, is this the first time that we're all watching this movie?
Yeah, I've never seen it before. No, I hadn't actually heard of it before, to be quite honest.
Same,
I was
Sam.
not aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been aware of this for decades. I just never got around to it. Don't know why but I'm happy I saw this, because this makes me now a Nolan completist. It's always escaped me. So, but
humble brag.
I mean, he's only got 12 movies, so it's not like it's that hard. But we're going to start with B with her thoughts.
Sure.
Spoiler-free thoughts on Following.
Spoiler-free. Yeah. So I didn't love it. I did just think it was a little tedious. I thought this story was just, for such a short movie and one that was edited where I felt like we were jumping back and forth between scenes really quickly, it still was not managing to capture and hold my attention, which I found pretty frustrating. I think I spent a good part of the time just trying to figure out where in the story I was, and I got in my own head about it and wasn't really able just to let it play out in front of me. And so that just became frustrating. I think the jumping around in time, which Christopher Nolan has like perfected by now, I think here, without a framing device like dreams or memory or amnesia, without a reason for it, I just kind of struggled with it. And I was like, I'm not really sure why this is here. But from a production standpoint, I did go back. So I watched it the first time, like we've all seen it. And then I went back and watched the commentary, and Nolan was talking about the production. He was really interested in diving deep on the production of this movie. And Sam, I did get a lot of appreciation for that part of it. Like you were talking about, Nolan mentioned that they actually did shoot in their own homes, which was fun. That is actually his apartment that Cobb went into and was like, this apartment's trash. Who would want to rob this place? That is actually the young man's apartment. And the piano, I think, was Nolan's parents' house or something, where that was. And he said they rehearsed for months and months beforehand so that they could be nimble when they got to all these sets where they would have other people, like the public that they were filming around, they didn't have permits for. And this is where Nolan became really interested in like squeezing the camera into a space and just filming there, so you got a really good understanding of the proximity from the camera to the actor. And then when I watched it again with that in mind, I got a little more appreciation for that. But I did try to watch it again. Nolan said, listen, you watch it the first time, you're figuring out what's going on. You watch it the second time, you can understand people's motives and implications a little bit more. So I did watch it again in the linear edit, if any listeners have seen that. And I have to tell you, it's worse. Don't do that. It's even more tedious to watch it in chronological order. So the editing did serve to make it a better movie, even though on the first watch I was like, not really sure. All right, what did you guys think about it?
Well, I would like to
Am I alone in this?
What was your rating on this?
So 2.5. For me, 2.5 is I would watch it again, right? It's 50%. So 2.5.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'll go next. I was both impressed and frustrated by Following. On one hand, I found it impressive that Nolan at such a young age, probably around 26 or so, was able to really assemble, this textured story. He, like we said before, he produced, wrote, directed, edited, shot this film on a $6,000 budget. And as a filmmaker, and I know Sam, you are as well, this, I'm in awe of what he was able to accomplish. And I would be honored to make a movie this good, for a first feature. So I can't look at this and be like, hey, you could have done better, because look where he did. He took this to a festival, it got distribution, and launched one of the greatest, film careers of the modern time. So, kudos to you. But, what I found really fascinating about this was how this, as the story's unfolding, I'm watching it. I felt like, I was always ahead of the story, but in the end, I wasn't. And it actually can be narrowed down to specific moments that I felt were flaws in the storytelling or the direction. But of course, Nolan, even at this point in his career, is thinking 12 steps ahead of his audience. And everything we see in this film is precisely intended.
See, the ending I liked.
Yeah. So there are no mistakes and there are no coincidences in this movie, even though I felt like I was seeing many of them. And I love the precision filmmaking that's in play here. Like that said, I didn't love the story entirely. I found it a bit derivative of what I thought were common tropes of film noirs. Actually, the movie I thought could have been, I was, as I'm watching this, I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't get Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels out of my head. I couldn't get movies like Usual Suspects out of my head, especially like the ending of this as well. So I felt like I saw the bones of what the things he was a big fan of right in front of me. And like, I thought this isn't super original. But he was doing what he could do with the budget that he had. And again, I appreciate that. But back to this film, I think my biggest gripe is that the film just wasn't fun. There was plenty of interesting dialogue and a couple parts I thought were funny, but I couldn't figure out if it was supposed to be funny. I wanted it to lean a little bit more into some moments of levity, perhaps, and it just felt like it was very one note. It's a really straightforward noir, and I guess I just wish that it just dared to have just a little bit more fun with the moments, because I think you've got two really interesting characters, but they're just so wound up so tight in the way they're playing it that I wanted this to have I wish he loosened up his writing in the directing just a little bit, so that maybe there's a little bit more winking at the audience a little bit that, we're doing this, but we're having a good time making this movie. And I hate using this word, but because of the way he did it, it felt very dry. And I wanted this to be more of a good time watch, and it just wasn't. And I'm in no rush to return to this because of that. And I know I missed parts of the plot because I'll admit, halfway through this movie, I'm like, move it along. As this is the 70-minute movie, it felt like a 2-hour movie to me. And I did not love this film at all, but I appreciate what he was able to do still. So I'll still give it a 2.5, just because I applaud what he was able to do with the story structure and the way he lands this. He does stick the landing in this movie, which is pretty cool. The time jumping around did not bother me. I never felt like I was lost in the story at all, but I just wanted more nuance to the characters, more range and things. So that's what I got for now. Sam.
So I am really surprised to say this. I sort of surprised myself with this movie. I had no expectations going in. And I actually found myself liking this film a lot. And
Nice.
I was trying to like think of the reason why I like it so much. And I don't know what it is, but I just liked when it started, and he's talking about his people watching and the fact that it's very procedurally oriented and he follows people around. For some reason, that kind of hooked me right away, and I thought, wow,
Mm.
this is an interesting character, and like I suppose you could people watch and just follow people around. Like that kind of strange mentality never occurred to me, and as the movie was unfolding, I also, I mean, I am looking at it through the lens of also being a filmmaker, being blown away by what he was able to do it on that budget, and so that did kind of color my opinion a little bit. But I actually, um, I found the acting like really good. I believe these people
Mm.
were real. And I was, what I was hinting at before is I thought that the low budget nature and the fact that I guess they actually did film in their apartments. For some reason, the bare bones nature of this movie and the fact that it felt so different than sort of other more like slickly produced movies. You know, there's a lot of films we see that are good. You expect a certain level of like production quality and sound quality. This
Mm.
was so different and so bare bones that I found myself leaning in and almost paying more attention. I found myself hooked. And for some reason, right towards the beginning, when they're like trying to rob that apartment, and then the woman shows up and they get caught and they have to go up the roof. And the
Yeah.
bad guys, he's like, oh, damn, we're going to be stuck up here for loads of hours. I just was like, they got to wait on the roof for a little bit. And for some reason, that just gave me a way in where I've seen other movies that are on this kind of budget in this realm level, and this one hooked me more. And for some reason, there's a lot of Christopher Nolan movies that I love, and we'll obviously be discussing them in the weeks to come, where the time device is used, where he jumps around. Sometimes I find it irritating just for the sake of doing it. In this movie, I actually felt that it made the movie more entertaining for me to watch. I hear you be
I
about
can confirm it
yeah,
does.
I hear you about the
Yeah.
linear edit, and for some reason, I was not ahead of the plot. I'm one of those viewers that, like, even though I consider myself a smart guy, I always get sort of suckered into the ride. Like I
Same.
react the way if it's a good director, the way they want me to react, if they're like in charge of the craft. And so I took pleasure in the, oh, wait a minute, is this, oh wait, we saw this when he's lying on the roof and he's got like a sock in his mouth. It cuts to that later, and I'm
Right.
like, oh, I remember that. And so I actually meant to see this a second time, and though I didn't get around to it, I ran out of time. I actually want to watch this movie again purely for pleasure, not out of like I have to understand this or analyze it. I just bizarrely enjoyed the experience, and I really understand your guys' points, and I
Mm.
totally see that. I am surprised at my positive reaction to this. This type of movie, I would usually be, like, oh, this is for some reason it just hit me in a really powerful way, and it inspired me to like get a jump start to go back on writing my material. And I think the reason that is because of the way in which it was made. It was just so refreshing, and it felt so different from other things. I mean, that's the gist of my review. I also want to give a shout out to the art direction, because
Mm.
this movie is extremely low budget, and the only time I noticed the where I felt the low budgetness of it was when they had like minor fight scenes where you could tell it's like these are not real fights. It's like the choreography is okay, like this.
That's how I
But
felt about the kissing.
yeah, yeah.
Kissing.
But for some reason, London and back streets and these like a couple of these posh random restaurants and this kind of dry. This movie to me felt like a very dry martini, and I was like, I liked that, and so I surprised myself. I was not expecting this, and for me personally, I enjoyed the movie. I would give it 3.5 stars.
Nice.
Nice.
It hit me differently than I thought it would, and I'm gonna buy it on Blu-ray. I haven't done that yet, but like I want this in.
You're gonna like the commentary.
Yeah, I want this in my collection. I can't wait to hear Christopher Nolan's commentary. I just like that. Something about it just struck me, and I'm surprised that it did. But I could feel his directing in the same way that, like, when I watched Steven Spielberg's short film Amblin from the '60s, I watched that and I'm like, I feel the Stevenness in this. I love this movie. It just something about it. Now I wonder though, if I had not known that this was Christopher Nolan and I just watched this cold, would I have as positive a reaction, or is it because of the fact that it's Christopher Nolan that it's like peppered for me? You know, I can't answer that because it's forever with Nolan. But like, if I didn't know it was Nolan and I just saw this movie out of nowhere, I don't know if I would like it as much. Maybe I would, but for me, I'm such a interested in film directing and directors. I think that may have peppered the experience. The two go hand in hand. I don't think I can separate them. So that's my review, based on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you on the grittier production sort of adding to it. I mean, it's definitely economical and that's impressive, but I do think that if it were super slick, I almost think that would have highlighted the lulls in the storytelling for me more. It gives you some more just like, I don't know if it's like a forgiveness for it, because it just, or if it's like something else texturally to look at when they're not feeding you more plot. I kind of think I would have liked this better if the blonde was more of a femme fatale. Like,
she seemed kind of
lifeless,
underdeveloped and kind of like sociopathic, but like there wasn't. I thought the villain, the bad guy, what's his name? The one
Cobb.
I liked that actor. I liked that I thought he was kind of scary in an interesting way, and I just liked that. I liked his dialogue immediately when he like sits down with him at the table and he's like, "So you followed me?" He's like, "Yeah."
Alex Haw, the only his only credit for a movie, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had great chemistry with the blonde.
He did. Yeah.
I thought they had good scenes together. I just wish that because there's that big twist at the end, and I just kind of wish they had infused that into her character a little bit more the whole time, as opposed to she kind of just seemed like someone who goes along with things.
She seemed very passive and like, oh, I'm amused by this, like whatever.
Right, aloof.
Aloof, yeah. I will say, I think it helps a lot that the sound is good in this production, because the audio, if this movie had like cheap, poor sound mixing, that would have really hurt it. But as long as you have good sound, you can get away with grainy photography. It always comes across as stylistic. If the audio is bad, for me, that just sinks a movie,
I like the sound mix. I was not the biggest fan of the score from this, from David Julian. I don't know what you guys thought, that rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat thing that kept repeating through this. It started to give me a migraine
a little bit. I didn't like or dislike it. I thought it was more sort of like an undercurrent score, which I didn't mind. I feel like it would be, I just felt kind of like neutral toward it.
I wish it just there's more nuance to the score a little bit. I felt.
It would have been funny if it was like a big melodic, like John Williams score. Like that would not have worked. Like, you'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah.
I want to just emphasize a few of the things I really did like in this. I think we're in spoiler territory as well here. There's a few story notes. There is, like I said, I think it's really cool how like I said before, I thought I was ahead of this plot many times in this. And what I realized that I wasn't, that Nolan is ahead of us throughout this movie. Is what I discovered. When they go to the first apartment, they break into the first apartment. I really do like the scene a lot, and they're rifling through everything. And this is where they're discovered by the couple. And my first thought was like, wow, that couple wasn't nearly as angry as they should have been that there were people in their apartment. Or I should call it a flat, because we're in London here, obviously. And I'm thinking like, that's really poor acting or poor direction. And I'm like, I'm upset at this movie. Like, this is just kind of dumb. Like, why would he direct them that way? And then it's not until they get to the roof where Cobb explains, well, clearly she is cheating on her husband. That was not her husband. And that's why the guy didn't say anything. I'm like, oh, like he's ahead of me. And this happens throughout the whole movie. And I made notes like, when Cobb is trying to break into the apartment before that, he's like trying to pick the lock, but it's the other guy, Bill, I guess we'll call him Bill. He's the one that like finds the key. And I'm like, well, Cobb's obviously not a very good burglar, but Cobb's playing him the whole time, playing us. Nolan's playing us. So I have like a whole list of notes of like dumb things that these guys are doing. Like Cobb is not a good burglar. He's like all these things I hear. Then I'm like crossing off all these things by the end of the movie. Nope. Nolan knew what he was doing the whole time. And I was played by this because of all the double cross and triple crosses going on in this. So I was really impressed that the tapestry was being weaved from the very beginning of this. It got me. I mean, it fooled me all from the very beginning. So I just loved all these scenes that are going on here. And it's not until the end that you realize what's really happening. Really well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought some of the performances where there's just a couple of people in the scenes, like I thought the interrogation was so strong. Like that was so claustrophobic and that really hooked me. And I thought that was great. And like I said before, I thought Cobb had great chemistry with the blonde. So I was just kind of like, God, I wish there was just more of that. We see so much of the young man kind of fumbling a little bit, which we need to, because it's a really lean story. I don't think there's anywhere where they could have shifted the focus around more. I wish we could have seen more of those really strong performances and multiple people that had chemistry in the scenes together more frequently. Because Cobb and the young man, it was fine. But they were more in service of the plot than they were, I thought, driving the chemistry between them.
I'm just amazed at like the quote unquote like magic of filmmaking, because 2 degrees to the left this movie could have been terrible, and like one mistake it could have been, and boy, that's the elusive magic of movies, because like when there's a good one you can talk and talk and talk about it, but if there is a terrible movie, I could see basically someone else could try to make this, and they're like, I'm going to get a 16 millimeter camera too, and I'm going to tell a story like that, and they could try to do all the same things and try to be Christopher Nolan, and it would just be awful. And it's hard to know exactly why, but you can feel it. I was watching someone's, and no names here, and this person doesn't care. They had an editing job that they were editing this person's like, maybe like $25,000 feature. And they asked me what I thought of the film, and I was trying to be very, constructive and stuff. But within 3 seconds, I was watching this movie and I was just like, this movie is terrible, terrible, terrible. And I could feel it. But there's just, I could give the reasons, but there's like, you can feel an undercurrent if something's wrong. And that's why I love making movies, because it's like chasing the magic. And then even if you never succeed, it's fun to chase the magic because it's the pursuit. I love it,
Yeah. Do you think outside of the time jumps, there's any like Nolanisms that have stuck around in his films?
I don't know. I think of the time jumps mostly, and this reinforces it even more when I see this. But I don't know.
I think of the time jumps and just maybe the design or the feel of the film. Again, it's a little bit elusive, but the characters and even the score, it just has a Nolan-esque vibe, but I can't quite put a finger on it. Yeah.
I think also the noir aspect. I mean, he's rooted in the noir, at least in a lot of the first part of his career. I don't know if I think at least through Inception. I don't know if since then, I don't think I think we should also mention that the Leonardo DiCaprio character was also named Cobb in that. And there's a interesting comparison. Cobb in Following is a burglar of certain items, and Cobb is also a thief in Inception as well, stealing or burglarizing people's memories. as well. So I think there's an interesting connection between them.
Yeah, I think
besides the noir, I don't really know. I would talk about the time jumping as well, but go ahead, B.
Yeah. No, I think Nolan's interested in like voyeurism too, as like a personality trait. I think a lot of his characters are like interested in the study of other people. They have this sort of anthropological feel about them. And I thought in this one that Cobb and the young man sort of both had that from different endpoints. You know, the young man is of course following people. And then when we get to the first burglaries that we see happen, I think Cobb is sort of doing that as well. He wants to find their, you know, sentimental items and things that they really care about. And he's sort of interested in that from that standpoint too. So I think that sort of follows Nolan throughout his career.
Yeah. And but also just with the, you know, as I'm just really impressed that even in his very first film, you know, he's screwing with these timelines in this unconventional storytelling,
and that it works so well.
But he's also doing it in a way that doesn't really call attention to itself. At least I didn't think so. I think a less confident filmmaker would be hitting us over the head with this, like, you know, 5 days earlier or 6 months later or something like that. And there's nothing really calling to these transitions. Personally, I had no problems following along where we were in the timeline here. And by the way, I think there are 4 different timelines at play here. I mean, you've got the framework of the story where Bill is talking to the police, where we find out it's the police, and he's accounting for what happened. And this is like, I guess, the present. And then we have Bill's time with Cobb. And then third one is Bill's time where he's like courting the blonde. And then later on, we have one where Bill is later on after he's been like assaulted and has been beat up. So I think there's like 4 separate timelines. It's jumping between these. And I like always felt like I knew where we were.
Yeah.
In this.
I think,
and there's no framework to where we are necessarily. We just know by the haircut and the condition that Bill is in. And I feel like it's obvious like where we are in the story. I never had a problem with it.
I caught on. At first, because of Bill's like appearance change and because of the fact that story-wise he's supposed to look a little bit like Cobb, because that's like the point.
Yeah.
I got confused as to who
his outfits,
was who, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, no, okay, that's him. It just took me a moment because there was not a huge contrast. It's not like one actor was like a, you know, huge guy with a beard and the other guy was like a gaunt, like they had similar looks that threw me off, but I feel like that was the point. So like
a little persona
eventually.
Yeah. For me, the set pieces communicated that really well. Like you knew where they were going back to because of the big bar door or the piano.
Although I chuckled when Bill gives himself a haircut, and this guy gives himself the most amazing haircut ever. And I just did not buy it at all. I was like, man, he looks like Brad Pitt just like walked out of the apartment. Like, how did you do that? Like, that was.
He had a very, and I wish I could remember it, but like in his apartment on like by his desk, there was like a poster of either a famous movie or a famous character, but there was something in the background that was very obvious, and I can't remember what it was. I just remember.
Oh, I think was it The Shining? Was it The Shining?
Yeah, that was it. It was The Shining. The Shining. And then there was another one, but there's like those things helped orient me.
One of Christopher Nolan's favorite movies is The Shining. He's been very vocal about that as well.
That's a funny story.
And you all saw the Batman sticker on the door, right?
I did. I was like thinking about copyright issues there, you know. I was like, how does he
no permits, no
what about the foreshadowing, you know, obviously that he does the Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, like only like 7 years later he begins that. I mean, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Did you know that Nolan was actually burgled and that helped to inspire this movie?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Cool.
And I think I read that too. And the reason why it was inspiring is because he was curious. Well, what did the burglars, think of his apartment and like what he had? Like, I wonder what they thought of me and the stuff that I have. And another thing I just really have to point out that I really loved. So, and I want to get your take on this as well. There's the second apartment that Cobb and Bill go to, and Bill says that this is an apartment that he was scouting. It's clearly his own place.
Right.
And I love the fact that Cobb insults his lifestyle and then his music collection. And at first I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if Bill just wanted Cobb to take a read on him. Why did he bring him to his apartment? Do we think Cobb already knew it was Bill's apartment and he was just playing along? I'm guessing he did, because I think it's revealed or mentioned that Cobb was following Bill as well. So you completely turn the tables. But I'm just wondering, does he know this at that moment, that this is Bill's apartment, or do you think he's playing along? Or I'm just curious.
I'm not sure that he's noticing it. I could go one way or the other, but that does bring up a point about it. And it's not a major issue, but I do have the slight storytelling issues that I have with movies like this is for Cobb's plan to work. So much minutia has to go exactly right.
Yeah.
And in real life, it's just somewhere along the line, something would derail. It's just so it works better. The clockwork idea of the story is clever and it's a fun narrative device for the movie. But sometimes with those type of plots, so much minutia like for him to have all that worked out and to have it worked out, it's too clockworky. It didn't bother me. I liked it. And so I guess what you're saying is, I think that if it was not the movies, I think he would have noticed. But I think in the movie, I think the Bill did not notice. That's the impression that I got, just for the sake of the clockwork nature of the story.
Yeah. I think Cobb knew it was his apartment and was like reading him to shit on purpose. Like he was just being kind of a douche.
Right. I mean, sorry. Cobb knew. I
understood. Yeah.
I think Cobb knew, because at the end he says, it's revealed his conversation with the blonde where he's making fun of him. He's like, I think he bought that mat just to put the key underneath there. I think he knew the whole time and was just kind of poking fun at him and being a little petty. But I don't think the young man or Bill caught on that that's what was happening. I think he thought that was like genuine critique from Cobb.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't think that Bill caught on, or at least it didn't play that way. But I've only seen it once, so
yeah. For that clockwork, it's okay. I saw it 3 times. Same feeling.
3,
yeah. Thrice.
All right. Do we have anything else to add? Anything about the ending to bring up? I'll just say that like I said earlier, I do like that. I feel this movie sticks the landing, the
double twist.
I love movies where we learn the fate of something when the characters learn it as well, and it's like it all happens at the moment. I do like movies like that. It's already too late. The blonde is already dead, and it's like it all happens. It's very much like the end of almost like Usual Suspects, where it's like, whoa, I dig those type of endings. So this definitely stirred my drink when that happened.
Yeah, I did like the ending. I thought the ending. I felt bad for Bill. I was like, oh man. I mean, I did feel empathy for him, but it was a good ending, and it was an appropriate ending for that type. If he just like walked away and was like, and this was the inspiration for my greatest novel that made me a millionaire, I'd be like, that's not very noirish,
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to add, or should we wrap this up?
I think I'm looking forward to more Nolan.
I am too. Yeah, I think this was a good start. I think it's a first feature, and I think he's off to. I think he's going places.
I just like the idea of picturing like late 20s Christopher Nolan like properly dressed with a 16mm camera, like, and you're going to stand there and we've got the shot. Okay, we're ready. Okay, let's roll. Like I like his. He's so organized. I just like it would have been fun to be a part of that shoot.
Complete with a monocle and everything. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break and we'll get back to our closing thoughts and whether Following is going to be inducted into our vault or not and saved for post-apocalyptic times. We'll see.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I just want to thank everyone for dialing into our transmission. We would love to get your feedback. And you can do that by sending us an email at backtotheframerate@gmail.com or finding us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, or TikTok with a handle at Back to the Frame Rate, or through Twitter by finding us at Back Frame Rate. We have a monthly newsletter, Frame Rate Monthly, where you can see what films we're going to be reviewing in the future, which is very helpful if you want to watch along with us and compare notes. We often have polls and other interesting content that we think you'll enjoy. By the way, best way to sign up is to email us. And lastly, we're a humble group of people here, not really able to throw money around for advertising and marketing. We're trying to grow organically, but a wonderful way you can help us is to please rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to our show. And please spread the word. Tell your friends, family, colleagues, your pets. Share our episodes on your social media feeds. That would be wonderful. It's an incredible boost to helping our show grow when you do that. So we thank you in advance. Okay, let's get to our closing thoughts and our decision on if this is going to come with us into the vault.
Dun, dun, dun.
Any last thoughts before, and we're going to share our decision on this.
Last thought is I'm glad it was in black and white. I think that helped.
Yeah.
I think it would have been worse in color.
I like
that's
that.
A good,
yes.
That's good. Keep that in. That's good.
All right. Sam, are you bringing this along with you to the end times?
I'd bring it along. I don't think it stands a chance, but I'd bring it along just because I like variety. And so in the vault, it just is like, oh, I'm in the mood for like having a black and white, like somewhat cold British afternoon with interesting dialogue and kind of interesting art direction. I'd bring it along. I don't think it's going to make it, but I mean, that's okay. I will always have the memory of this film in the apartment that is my mind.
Nice.
We kind of went out of order, but that's okay. I also agree. I am happy that this is in black and white. I think this is definitely a worthy debut for Nolan. I think he's going to go off and do some pretty cool movies down the road. I think he does much better film noirs.
Mm-hmm.
I think Memento is coming up next week. Batman is our detective movies. They're great. Yeah. I think the movie we're going to watch in a couple of weeks from now, Insomnia, might be a better movie than this, which is also in the world of noir. So
on a humorous note, just for the sake of humor, I just got to throw this in there. This has nothing to do with Nolan, but you mentioned Batman feeling nostalgic. I went on Max last night. I saw that Batman and Robin was there, and I thought, well, I don't remember this from being 16 years old. I started watching it. Batman
and Robin is not it. Batman and Robin, the Schumacher version?
The Schumacher one. And I'd forgotten a lot about it. And I thought, I can't remember. I lasted less than 10 minutes. And I was like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, non sequitur, but it was just sad. Yeah.
Me or heroes.
Because of that, there's double indemnity. There's so many other things. If we ever get around to like a real noir, like film noir retrospective, these movies will go into the vault someday. But I gave this a 2.5. There's a reason for that. This movie is average for me, and so I say no. Nolan, I think you can do better.
Oh my God, it comes down to me. I'm the decision maker. It's terrifying. No, it's a no. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry. No, if I am surviving the end of the human times, I don't want to have to watch this movie for a 4th time. I can't even believe I did it.
You only have yourself to blame for that.
I know. I'm cool. We could watch other movies.
All right. Thank you. Here we go.
one of these days, I'm a movie that I want in the vault. I'm gonna purposely say that I don't want it in the vault just because I can hear that sound effect. I love that sound. I like that sound better than the sound of it going in the vault. There's something so satisfying. It's like it sounds like an air conditioner like falling out of an apartment window and like exploding.
It's a satisfying noise for you.
It is satisfying. I'm just like, that's awesome. Yeah.
Have you ever seen those like hydraulic press videos? I feel like that's up your street.
Yes.
Oh, where they just like crush things, or where's the one where,
God, I love
where
that.
it's the I forget, it's not like a chipper shredder, but it's like things that grinds things into a pulp.
Oh,
you know what
that's
I'm talking
also
about?
good. No,
It's,
but I'm interested.
It's hold on, I wish I could pull it up. It's
man, there was one that it grinded something, but the thing that it destroyed was so lightweight. You don't even see it get crushed. The hydraulics, and it just like it disappears because it's like disintegrates under the pressure. I wish I could remember.
It's crazy. Anyway, this is now a hydraulic press podcast.
It's what's a I wish I could find it right now. It's like a grinder, and you can put anything in it. But like they put like a motorcycle in it. They put like a bowling ball in it. They can put anything in this thing, and it just destroys it.
That's crazy.
I love stuff like that. I watch ASMR videos sometimes that they help me sleep. There's one. It's like this Russian woman who's like training you to like be a Russian spy. She's like, so you think you have what it takes? And she talks and talks, and like 10 minutes, I'm out. Yeah.
I like the sand. I like the kinetic sand. That's my jam.
Well, my kids are into slime videos where it's just like hours and hours of like.
Oh God!
It's so funny. That repulses me, but I to each their own. Like yeah.
Well, they can watch it for hours and hours. Okay.
You know what you can't watch for hours and hours and hours? Following. It's only 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I can't stand.
Watch it 3 times in 1 week.
I definitely cannot stand the sound of people eating, like just eating videos where it's like,
oh yeah, it's my least favorite.
Oh God, I do like clickety clack of typing keyboards. That's a good one.
I like that too.
Yeah. You know, I meant to do this before we got through our final thoughts and verdict, but what movie would we pair Following with? We should have done this
double
before.
Feature.
Yeah, it's a double feature night. Following with another film, and I could re-edit this.
This double feature is going to be dope. You can go to Citizen Crust and get a burger, then go see the second movie. This is no joke.
No
Mark
joke.
Wahlberg found his way in. Can you believe that? He hasn't been around a while. I'm still here. Go see the movie with the dog doesn't die in it. Go see it.
B, you got Following's a pretty short film. You've got another 2 hours. You could squeeze something else in that night. What are you watching with Following?
Ooh, that is a great question. I am going to watch, and tell me if you've seen it, Stranger Than Paradise, Jim Jarmusch.
B, it was on. I drafted it in our 1984 movie.
Oh, that's true. You did. How did I forget that? How did I forget that?
I haven't seen that.
I do love it. It's great. Yeah,
this I think is a great movie. It's riddled with ennui. It's another black and white early career movie for Jarmusch. This one, not quite his debut, not a one-to-one there, but there's the element of criminality that's really fun. I think the characters are more interesting. They have great chemistry together, and just the sort of ramblings and stuff that follows and ensues. I'm into it. It's on Criterion. It's on Max. You can rent it on VOD. You should definitely go see this movie if you like Jarmusch. If you like the stuff he's making now, it's really fun to go back and watch this.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'm gonna check it out. Actually,
it's really good, Sam. Yeah,
it's great.
I'm gonna like Jonathan Pryce in Miss Saigon. I'm gonna check it out.
Oh my God. It's John Lurie helped write it too, which I'm a big John Lurie fan. Nice. I think anyone's into New York art, John Lurie.
Cool. I'm not familiar, but it sounds interesting.
Stars in it too. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
My movie pairing, it's not film noir, it's not black and white, but I'm going with this because it's also a directorial debut. I'm going with El Mariachi from Robert Rodriguez. Came out in 1993.
Never seen it.
It's I love this film. It's kind of an odd pairing, but I'd watch these easily the same night. This was also done on a shoestring budget, which I think is also makes it a great double feature. It was done, Following was done for 6,000. El Mariachi was done for 7,000, and and I also highly recommend checking out Robert Rodriguez's book Rebel Without a Crew, which is a must read for any filmmaker out there. It reads like a diary. You could also check that out. It's a good pairing with the movie. This is
Rodriguez has a lot of heart.
Yeah, this is the first of his Mexico trilogy, which includes Desperado, which is my favorite, most people's favorites of the trilogy, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. It's a film I probably need to reassess sometime. I didn't love it. The plot is basically about this guy, guitar player, who's a drifter trying to make a living through his music, and he rolls into a small town in search of a gig, but his plans get derailed when he is mistaken for a notorious assassin by the local thugs, and he gets caught up in the mob warfare and is forced to fight his way out of town just to stay alive, as you do. This I think this movie is just a hell of a lot of fun. I just highly recommend it. And like Nolan's Following, when you watch El Mariachi, it's just really cool to see the seeds and the groundwork that Rodriguez lays for what will become really a gigantic film career. So it's a lot of fun. It's available on VOD right now, so it's really good.
I'll check that out.
Cool.
Yeah, just gotta read some subtitles. That's all
right.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta read. That's hard.
That's why I watch movies, so I don't read.
Sam, what are you gonna watch the same night with?
I did have one, but I had a backup one, and the reason is the one that came to mind first. I think I may have picked it already before on the podcast. Have I recommended? So I did.
What you wrote in the notes, you have not recommended before.
Okay, because so I'll stick with the one in the notes because the one that came to mind first was Gone Girl, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned that before.
I have.
Okay. So I'll stick with the other one. This is a long shot, and the connection here is thin. But the one I'm going to go with is Neil Simon's 1992 film, The Crying Game, and that's a great movie. But the connection,
Neil Jordan.
Neil Jordan. My apologies. You're right. And it is a thin connection just because I was trying to go with Nothing Is What It Seems movies, and this has a very specific, like one moment. Nothing is what it seems that has been made fun of a lot of it, and it's like the scene that like
I don't know what you're talking about, Sam. I don't know what you're talking about. Can you explain to us what?
Yeah. So the camera pans down. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I was reminded of it because the movie has a grit to it. I'm sure it's has a mega budget compared to Following, but good movie, well acted, intriguing, just really good film craftsmanship from Neil Jordan.
Great choice.
Yeah, right. Not Simon. Who the hell is Neil Simon's a singer, isn't he?
Yeah.
God, man.
Right.
I am. Okay, I gotta do it.
Neil Simon's a famous playwright.
Yeah, Neil Simon's the playwright. Okay, man.
Diamond is the singer. Diamond is the singer.
Diamond. Oh my God, I'm sleep deprived. Okay,
there's too many Neils. Is what I'm coming away from.
I'm sorry to say, this is my last time on the podcast because I screwed up too much. No, I'm just kidding. I'm here.
But he did a lot of great movies, like
Lost in Yonkers,
Goodbye Girl, Sunshine Boys. Oh my God,
it's just so well directed. It's just I loved it. I saw it like when I was a lot younger, but it just was. I just recommend the film. It's a thin comparable, but I recommend the movie in general anyway.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Well, thank you. And I did check. It's available on Hoopla. Hoopla. Yeah. And Showtime, if you have, it's on their Showtime on demand and on VOD. All right.
Rock and roll. We all have such good taste. It's crazy.
We do.
It's crazy.
That is our show. I don't typically do this but we are running really quick, running fast tonight. I want to say one thing I did see this week, if that's okay.
What'd you see?
Sam, I think you might appreciate this because I watched the new Roadhouse movie.
Oh, how was it?
Is it good?
I can't say it's great, But here's the thing. I wish I had watched the original recently. I haven't seen it in so long. And
you gotta take the road down to the house, Nathan.
I would like to review that with you guys sometime.
Yeah,
if possible.
The original
percento.
I love the original Roadhouse. Is like the sleaziest, most entertaining. Like that movie is like vicious, and I love it.
Well, anyways,
absolutely.
This version from Doug Liman, who was just like, where out of nowhere, Doug Liman directs this remake of Roadhouse. Jake Gyllenhaal is the lead in this. Jake Gyllenhaal is great in this. He's very charismatic, and this guy is ripped. Like he's never been for a movie before. And I'm talking like he did the movie like Southpaw. Was it Southpaw a few years ago?
Yeah,
I forget what it was. I mean, he's doubled down on that for this movie.
See, he went to the Zac Efron school.
This movie is batshit nuts. All right.
Sounds awesome.
All right.
Can't wait.
Now, this movie is dumb as a doornail. I'm
telling you. Yeah.
It
for me.
It makes no sense at all. The plot makes no sense.
Perfect.
But I smiled all the way through this movie, but actually I'm watching this like I slap myself. Stop liking this. This is so dumb. Conor McGregor is in this as well. I think it was a UFC fighter, right? I don't know UFC, but I some of our audience will be like, yeah, he's a UFC fighter. Somebody will know. Anyways, he walks like he's bow-legged. I didn't even realize this, but it's hysterical. Anyways, I don't necessarily recommend this unless you're into like really big, dumb action, really big, dumb.
I mean, movies
action.
I loved: Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Edge of Tomorrow.
No.
The original Roadhouse.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith is like Citizen Kane compared to this. Okay,
it's Doug Liman. I don't know.
Yeah,
I love dumb like action.
But anyways, there's some really good action in this. There's some fun stuff, but like you break down this plot, like I don't know. There's no connective tissue at all to any of the plot. Anyways, I wanted to mention that. I have nothing else. I just wanted to say I saw it and like I was like dumbfounded that I actually sat through this and like, okay, this was entertaining, but like I kind of hate myself.
Random comment here. I think Jake Gyllenhaal has a lot of range, and if there was ever like a new Charles Manson movie to come out, I think he'd make a great Charles Manson.
Oh God, yeah,
because he can do it. Like he can do it. Like
you look at what he did for Nightcrawler, and like
exactly, yeah.
You're talking to the number one Fast and Furious fan on this podcast, so I'm here for dumb action. Like you don't have to defend this to me.
Okay,
we should get the character from Nightcrawler as a guest host because he's very motivated and very serious about his career. I think I think it'd be good.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Okay.
What are we watching next week?
We are going to watch Memento, Christopher Nolan's second feature film, and I'm not going to spoil it because I mean until it happens, we'll know. But I think we're gonna have a guest next week. But we'll see what happens.
Wait a minute, we're not watching Batman and Robin. What the hell? I thought that was what. But that movie's awesome.
That's when we get to our Joel Schumacher retrospective.
Oh,
wait,
great.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Okay, there you go. So don't worry, we'll get there.
Wait, what are we watching next week? That's a joke about memory.
Oh yeah, got it. Funny.
B, all I have to say to you is be good.
Okay. Well,
all right.
Thank you.
Well,
all I have to say to people out there is you better love our podcast.
Our podcast.
God damn it, we're charming. All right,
putting our parts.
We try hard.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm sweating bullets over here, but yeah.
Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Western Media Podcast Network. We want to also thank Brian Ellsworth for our wonderful show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from the Fallout Shelter. What are you drinking there, B?
Topo Chico. Blueberry hibiscus is fantastic.
Your presence in our underground sanctuary is truly appreciated. We are truly sorry you could not join us, but we want to express our gratitude for your company. If you're finding solace in our discussions, we kindly ask that you please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Your support is the beacon of light that brightens our confined space. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, or whichever portal connects you to our broadcast and share your thoughts. Until we emerge from the fallout, stay with us, keep hope alive, and keep those reviews coming. This is the end of our transmission. Back to the frame rate. Signing off.
I want you to know it's over.
Well.
Bye.
Bye.